All right, folks, and we're back. So we're going to transition a little bit. We were talking about the lockdowns and the hardships it's been on small businesses, but I want to transition. One issue that's been facing Vacaville, the town that you're running for city council in, is the homeless population, right? This has been a heated debate. I've seen it all over Facebook where everyone seems to have a different opinion on how to fix the homeless situation. There was a heated debate about, what do they call it, the tiny homes, building shelters, mental health facilities for them and stuff like that. How do you feel like are there any options you think that as a city council member that you can do to at least somewhat help, or is most of it going to be a problem that the state needs to deal with, or maybe a combination of both, or law enforcement? I mean, how do you feel about all this?
Yeah, I think it's a lot. The longer term solution is a combination of things. I think it's the state stepping up and doing their part. I also think the county as well. The tiny homes issue, it was a pretty hot topic for a while because I think it was really poorly planned. I think it was really poorly laid out. Mm-hmm. But I love to see the community members who saw it coming to their neighborhoods and was like, whoa, hold on, let's not just let this pass through. So I think we owe a lot to folks in the community who are paying attention to city council meetings, were paying attention to that issue and pretty much put a stop to it and pretty much said, whoa, not in our backyard. Like, think of the longer term impacts that it's going to have on our neighborhoods. And so I was actually really proud to watch that happen. It's an issue, man. It's really an issue. I mean, because of the weather we have here, we're in California. It's still great weather, but there's times of the year where being homeless is a real safety issue for them. Back in the city of Vacaville, they've done a really good job of opening up spaces for them to be at night. I think we do have to look at maybe a longer term solution because right now we're not lucky, but we're using spaces that are not being used by people, community centers and stuff, in a way that's helpful, but that's not going to be around forever. And so we're going to have to come up with some type of solution. I don't know if that's brick and mortar. I don't know if that's maybe working with other cities in Solano County to come up with some better solutions, but right now we don't have it solved. The thing is also, it's actually an issue that's not growing. If you look at the recent statistics, it's not skyrocketing. Yeah. It's either stabilizing or coming down. Mm-hmm. And it was interesting. I was listening to a recent city council meeting. They're talking about the homelessness issue, and I heard some of the council members say, names, not dropping any names, that, hey, these are just people here in our community. These are not people facing substance abuse issues. These are not people facing mental health issues. That's not true. Yeah. I think they've done surveys. Well over half of them admit to having those issues. And so that's a huge part of it. So if we're going to talk about solving it, trying to solve it, or work with this, to me, it really is a substance abuse issue. It's a mental health issue that we're not really addressing. So I was a little disappointed to hear that perspective. I think that needs to be part of the conversation as well. Yeah, I think what happens is people romanticize it, right? They say, well, let's be real. If the issue with homelessness was just providing homes with people, we would have solved it decades ago. Yeah. Right? It's not necessarily about shelter. You're right. I think it's a mental health issue. I think it's a substance abuse issue. One time I was part of a team that actually did a lot of sweeps. And what we did is we got social workers with us, and we were just going to sweep through these areas, and we were going to basically arrest anyone that had warrants out for their arrest. Mm-hmm. But for most of them, we're just going to extend services. Say, hey, the county has these services available to you. It's housing assistance, it's AA assistance, it's NA assistance, all these things. We had the social workers with us. And we probably contacted 120 people in one day, and I think about 12 of them accepted services. Yeah. And that's a reality we have to accept, right? Some people, they're not in situations where they can't choose, right? Services are available, help is available to people, but when all is said and done, you can really only help people who want to help themselves. Yeah. And I think that was one issue that came up with the tiny homes. I think the heart's in the right place, but the communities that had success with tiny homes were ones that had a very strict criteria of how to get into these homes, progress that had to be made while you were there, and the idea was to graduate out of them and become independent and be able to help yourself. To me, that's a philosophy, right? I won't say what spectrum, but for me, it's like your heart's in the right place, cool, but it's not about your heart, it's not about your emotions. It's trying to help our city, the most people, longer term. Mm-hmm. And the longer term is getting these people out of being homeless. Right. We're not just giving them a place to live. That's a very, very short-sighted solution. And that's why I see a lot of concentration on, let's just build a homeless shelter. That's not, it needs to be a real combination. And I'm probably going off topic, but I'm really concerned when I hear things like defund the police. I've seen some defund the police programs. A lot of these defund the police programs are taking out these homeless initiatives. And so they're cutting funds from the police who are involved in that, and then nobody else is picking up the slack. And so these people are just falling through the cracks even more. So I think that it's all connected to me.
Yeah, and I'll say, like, I mean, I've worked in government for 10 plus years now. When you actually cut a budget of any sorts, the things that get cut first are the unnecessary things. Now, one thing that people relate to would be schools, right? You cut the school budget, the first things that go are the art and music programs, right? Because they're not essential, so to speak. Right? If you cut the police budget, the first programs that go are your homeless outreach, your narcotics programs, your PALs, your all those things. Those are the programs that are really the face of police work that do the most positive influence in the neighborhood are the ones that end up getting cut first.
100%. Great example. Last year, I was researching this issue. City of San Leandro, they cut, I think it was $1.9 million from their budget as part of the defund the police effort. Mm-hmm. So their city council cuts that. What's one of the first things the police department looks? Well, they can't cut essential services, so they cut their homeless assistance program.
Right.
A group of officers working with mental health professionals, going out, making contact with these people, seeing what they need, seeing how they can help. That's one of the first things they cut. Well, guess what? Less than a year later, they have to reinstitute it because nobody else stepped in to take it. The city didn't step in. The county didn't step in. So they're like, well, this turns out we do need help with this because it does affect crime. It does affect all sorts of issues. The city ended up getting funding to go back and do it again. So it's kind of sad, the short-sighted approach that you see in some of these cities, just to be woke or just to look like they're deep. I don't know what they're doing, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well,
I don't know what they're doing.
They know what they're doing?
Yeah, exactly,
I mean,
yeah.
There's not a whole lot of logic to the idea of defunding the police because the first people that suffer, of course, will be your homeless, your poor neighborhoods, right? The neighborhoods that are riddled with gangs and drugs and that kind of stuff will require multiple officers to go in. If you start cutting back on police, those are the first neighborhoods cops won't go into anymore.
Oh, yeah.
I
mean, think of the folks who are in that category. I mean, they've done studies. A lot of these folks, I mean, there's a percentage of them are veterans, a large percent with PTSD. There's a lot of issues in those neighborhoods. You have to be careful when you go into those type of situations, Just sending in a social worker is not the only part of that solution, so.
No. And it's not going to work. Because honestly, it's silly though. Because some agencies have tried that throughout the country, right? They say, well, let's hire social workers to go in and do this. And again, the heart's in the right place, right? Let's get some mental health trained people to deal with mental health people. But what's the first thing they do? Can I get a cop over here to accompany me? Now taxpayers are paying for 2 or 3 people to do the job of one.
I think the states to blame a lot too, because when they shut down all these mental asylums and these state-funded hospitals.
I think that was Ronald Reagan back in the 70s, right?
Yeah, that killed our. Because now homelessness becomes a crime issue, right? Because you can't really deal or interact with them unless they've committed a crime, and so now you need the police officers to. And so you take them to jail, they get fed, they get washed real quick, and then they get cited and released, right? And then they're never going to come to court again. So then they get warrants, and so you're dealing with not only people who are down and out, because I'm sure there's some real people that are just down and out. They lost their houses, they lost their jobs, and they're living in their cars with their children. There's people that definitely are out there that want help, that need help, but you're dealing with a whole bunch more people that are mentally incapable of helping themselves.
It's a revolving door.
And so they utilize, drugs and self-medication, and there's nowhere for them to go and get treatment, and so the state needs to, maybe instead of building all these prisons and stuff, maybe we should refund like these mental health asylums or these mental health hospitals. I think that making the communities of like a small city like Vacaville or Fairfield or Vallejo or even the counties accountable for all our mental health needs and is just, it's not the way to go.
Yeah, I think it goes back to where I'm going to get a lot of questions. I've talked to a lot of people like, hey, homelessness comes up, right? Yeah. And they're just like, so, and I know they're not fair questions, but we should probably defund the police. Let's take some money away from the police. They shouldn't be involved in that. Let's give it to social workers, mental health workers. Let them address that problem. I'm like, you're setting up it's a contradiction.
That's not your job.
It's exactly right.
Because the city of Vacaville, I'm sure they have social workers that work for the city of Vacaville, but it's the county that handles all that kind of stuff. It's the county that has all that kind of stuff.
And there's counties that have really good programs in place. I want to say there's a few different programs out there of county programs that use state funding as well, I think from the Mental Health Services Act, they have funding. They have a really good collaboration. I think there's some pilots out as well. With they have an EMT, they have a social worker or a psychiatric person, and they have law enforcement involved from the county and the city, depending on what it's part of. And it's like a team. It's a collaborative effort. But like to me, it's a collaborative effort. We're not taking money away from police to give to them. It's all of us working together. And cities can do it. They gotta be. There's best practices out there.
Yeah, and from the court side, I mean, I worked as a bailiff before, and I've seen this, but another thing the state has done is they decriminalized a lot of things, right? Basic drug possession, that kind of stuff. And what they did is they took away the power to hold something over somebody. Because you used to be able to arrest somebody, they'd go through the system, then they'd go to drug court and say, hey, you're going to get help with your drug addiction, or you're going to be looking at jail time. And the vast majority of people were like, yeah, I'll get help. Okay, I'll do my thing. But when you decriminalize stuff and remove that kind of element, now people are, not only are they not getting help, but they have no consequence for not getting help anymore. And
or at least a percentage of them, right?
Yes.
And
that mix, along with defunding the police, Prop 47 and all these other little propositions, and then on top of that, defunding the police. So now you got guys that have literally, I mean, it's hard to go to prison nowadays. Like, you have to be off the wall to go to prison.
You have to be a very violent
You got to be a very violent dude.
with a long history.
Like a regular dude, it's going to take years for him.
They took everyone out.
Yeah, so there's no consequence.
Kids don't listen to that.
Kids get.
Cal Fire, with all the fires, had that problem because they lost a lot of their prison workers. Because now the people who are left in prison don't qualify.
Well, listen, and what's the incentive of being... Let's even talk about on the county level. You have these county jails, right? And now they're given day for day no matter what. I mean, if you have a warm pulse, you get day for day. So what's the incentive of going to work in the kitchens? Or what's the incentive of going outside and working the community freeway cleanups and stuff?
Yeah.
There is none. If I can sit in my cell and get the same exact, days off as someone who goes out and works hard and shows it an effort to, to like kind of make their lives better, it's a no-brainer. They're going to sit in their cell and they're not going to do anything. Why are they going to pick up
and eat top ramen and mystery meat sandwiches
and
they're going to do their thing.
And half the time they're not even getting into jail. They're getting
so
it's too bad. Like there's definitely a lawlessness that's going on here in California, and the whole defund effort is just. I think people are asking for something they really don't want.